In today's video, we're once again playing around the NHL Draft Lottery Simulator at Tankathon.com, and today's new draft order is certainly very interesting. Plus, we have some updated prospect rankings, and we're using a different formula for the mock draft. We'll do the top 10 picks coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we're doing another draft lottery simulation, and we have some updated prospect rankings, and plus we're going to be using a little bit of a different formula. For the most part, in the other videos we've done in the past on the 2020 NHL Draft Lottery, I've just gone by the draft rankings for the players that are used through Tankathon.com, but today we're going to go with a little bit of a different approach. TSN's Craig Button put out a new list of his prospect rankings today, which I reviewed, and I've used that as consideration, but I've also made some tweaks to it with my own opinions as well. So in today's mock draft of the top 10 picks, I'm basically using more of a team need-based approach to take a look at who they likely would select based on available players. So let's jump into the top 10 here, starting with number 10 and working our way up to number 1. Selecting 10th overall, we have the New Jersey Devils. Now, this is the pick that comes from the Arizona Coyotes in the Taylor Hall trade, and I have them selecting Alexis Lafreniere, playing for Chicoutimi in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. Now, he's going to be a little bit of a wild card in this draft. Craig Button describes him as a potential top 5 player. Obviously, his stock has fallen a bit this year because he's only played in 19 games, hasn't played since November due to a concussion and the symptoms that he's been experiencing ever since. But he has extremely high hockey sense. He's a hard worker, and Button believes that he could be somewhat comparable to a player like a Patrice Bergeron, a solid 200-foot player, top 6 guy with a good offensive output as well, and he very well could be a huge addition to any of these teams. If he can come back to full health and get to the NHL in the next couple of years like many expect, he very well could prove to be a draft steal. Selecting 9th overall, we have the Montreal Canadiens, and we have them selecting Swedish-born player Lucas Raymond. Now, Raymond's stock has fallen a little bit here in his current prospect rankings, but Raymond is still an excellent hockey player. He's a very well-rounded, highly skilled player, exceptional hockey sense, great speed, terrific hands. He's strong defensively, play a really solid two-way game, tough to play against, and I think he's exactly the type of player that Montreal is missing. He can certainly provide a lot of help for them on both ends of the ice within that forward group, and would be a huge addition to their club. Picking 8th overall, we have the New Jersey Devils once again picking. Of course, this is their own selection this time, and they would take Russian goaltender YAROSLAVASKAROV. Now, Askarov for the New Jersey Devils could be a major game changer. Clearly, they, amongst all these teams, have one of the biggest needs for a goaltender of the future. Corey Schneider is near the end of his career, has not worked out the last little while, battled injuries. They have Mackenzie Blackwood, who's done okay, but we're not really clear yet how good he will be as a future starter. But if they can add some goalie depth and some insurance by putting a guy like Askarov on their system, that would be absolutely huge here for the Devils organization moving forward, and I think it'd be a really wise selection for a team like New Jersey where they have multiple first-round picks to use one of them on the top goalie in the draft. Selecting 7th overall, we have the Anaheim Ducks, and I have them selecting forward from the OHL, Cole Perfetti. Now, Cole Perfetti is a very smart, goal-scoring center iceman. He's got a wicked shot, but his hockey sense and his creativity, to me, are off the charts, and I think he'd be a tremendous addition to just about any of these teams, really. But Perfetti would really fit in well with a lot of the other young players that are already in the Ducks organization. Some scouts say he needs to work on being a little bit more of an explosive skater. Now, in Craig Button's recent draft, he had Perfetti up even a little bit higher, but I think this is a better suited spot where he kind of fits best, in my opinion, and I can see him going around that 7-8 range, and it'd be an excellent choice here for the Anaheim Ducks. Next up, selecting 6th overall is the Ottawa Senators. Of course, this is the pick they received from the Erik Karlsson trade with the San Jose Sharks, and I have them taking a local product, at least local by way of junior, center iceman Marco Rossi. Of course, born in Austria, but playing his junior hockey for the very strong Ottawa 67s team. He might be small, but he's tremendously offensively gifted. 5'9" center iceman, put up over 100 points this past year. He's a really solid playmaker, but he can finish as well. Has been a steady riser in this year's draft. Obviously, playing in Ottawa, it's given the Senators plenty of opportunities to do lots of scouting with that team and some of their top players, and I think Marco Rossi would be a different dynamic of a player that they don't already have in their system, and would be a tremendous addition to an already pretty strong group of players with the Senators farm system. Next up, selecting 5th overall, we once again have the Senators, this time with their own first-round selection, and I have them taking another local product from the 67s, Jack Quinn, who's arguably the best pure goal scorer in this draft and has really risen in the draft rankings here towards the end of the season after putting up some really strong play. Jack Quinn is an elusive player. He knows how to get open, and Craig Button's recently even compared him to Bruins sniper David Pastrnak. He feels he has that type of ability to be that kind of player at the NHL level, and if these two players, even though they're used to playing together with the 67s, could continue that at the NHL level, would be even another great addition here for the Senators. I think it would make a lot of sense for them to take both these players. They're a little bit different. They're players that they would have seen lots playing in the Ottawa area, and it just makes a lot of sense to me that they grab these two dynamic forwards. You have a dynamic player in Rossi, another different kind of dynamic with Jack Quinn, and it would be a whole different dimension added to the Senators lineup here. Next up, selecting 4th overall, we have the Detroit Red Wings. So we know there's some teams there lower in the standings that definitely won the lottery in this simulation. The Red Wings would then be selecting the top defenseman of the draft from the Erie Otters in the OHL, Jamie Drysdale. Now, Drysdale has the potential to be a really solid number 1 defenseman in the NHL. Clearly the top defenseman in this draft. Craig Button recently compared him to kind of a combination of a few players. One being the recently, top rookie, Cale Makar, or one of the top rookies, I should say. Obviously, he has that ability to be dynamic in offensive threatening like Makar has been able to do so far. But he also says he draws some comparison to a guy like Sergei Zubov and his ability to control the game, dictate the tempo, and really go forward here and be a well-rounded defenseman at both ends of the ice. So Drysdale would be a good catch here for just about any of these teams, but for a team like the Red Wings really kicking off their rebuild, he'd be a solid future number 1 BD for their franchise. Next up, selecting 3rd overall, we have the Los Angeles Kings. Now, the Kings in this case would move up 1 spot and grab one of those lottery spots, and I have them selecting the top center iceman of the draft, Quinton Byfield. Now, if you've been watching these draft lottery simulations or other draft lottery prospect rankings, you would have seen Byfield slipped a spot here. For the most part, he's been ranked number 2, but now in this one, he drops to number 3, being the top center iceman here that the Kings could certainly use for the future. He very well could be a cross of a guy like Evgeny Malkin and Anze Kopitar. He's got the size, the strength, the offensive ability, as well as the defensive awareness to kind of almost be a hybrid of both those two players if he can actually put all of his potential to realization at the NHL level. I guess the reasoning behind Button dropping him down a spot in today's prospect rankings is just that he feels that Byfield's potential just has more things to work on. It has the possibility of still being either the number 2 or even 1st overall best player in this draft longer term. It's just hard to say how these players are going to develop and how their organizations they end up to certainly impact their development here as well. But Byfield is a big, strong center who's going to have a major impact, but certainly LA would be a great spot for him to land. Selecting 2nd overall and moving up 7 spots in this draft lottery is the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, the Blackhawks could certainly benefit from this as well. They get the ability to grab the number 2 selection, which is Tim Stutzle, obviously German-born player, having a tremendous year, has been a steady riser in this year's draft. Really solid all-around hockey player. Has the ability to dictate the game, and Craig Button recently compared him to a Patrick Kane type of player. He's got that much of an offensive ability, and he said he's so smart, he knows how to take over the game, not let the game dictate how he responds and how he plays. And Stutzle certainly has a major franchise impact here that he can have on any team that's fortunate enough to draft him. Imagine him playing alongside some of the other top players with Chicago. I think he'd be a tremendous fit. He can play center. He can also play wing, and would really be a tremendous catch here for the Blackhawks, who also picked high last year, selecting center iceman Kirby Dach, and to get another solid, versatile player like Stutzle into the mix here would really help move them forward big time. Selecting 1st overall and winning the draft lottery is the Buffalo Sabres. The Sabres finally catch a break here, move up 6 spots to grab 1st overall. First time in a very, very, very long time. Of course, they would be selecting the top prospect in the 2020 draft, Alexis Lafreniere. Lafreniere will definitely head straight to the NHL and be a franchise-altering type of player. He might be a winger, but he's the kind of winger that you can build around. He's got incredible offensive instincts. He can play physical game. He can really dominate and take over the games at a moment's notice, and a clear-cut favorite for a long time now to be the absolute top prospect and go number 1 overall in the 2020 NHL Draft. The Buffalo Sabres would be incredibly lucky if this were to actually play out for real. They could really benefit him. Imagine him playing with a guy like Jack Eichel and some of the other players they have in Buffalo, Rasmus Dahlin on the back end. It would really help the Sabres take a major step forward and finally getting out of rebuild mode and being a solid playoff contender. So that's today's Draft Lottery Simulation. I'd love to know your thoughts on these top 10 selections. Certainly let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments and which players you think these teams should select if this was the actual draft order here coming up for the 2020 NHL Draft. So of course, as always, like I said, give me your thoughts down below and we can discuss further. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing for daily NHL content. Lots of top prospects and NHL news covered every single day. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you next time.